The 10,044th meeting of the Security Council is called to order. The provisional agenda for this meeting is the situation in the Middle East. The agenda is adopted. The Security Council will now begin its consideration of item 2 of the agenda. I wish to draw the attention of Council members to document S 2025-650, a letter dated 15th October 2025 from the panel of experts on Yemen addressed to the President of the Security Council. Members of the Council have before them document S 2025-736, the text of a draft resolution submitted by the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. The Council is ready to proceed to the vote on the draft resolution before it. I shall put the draft resolution to the vote now. Will those in favor of the draft resolution contained in document S 2025-736 please raise their hand? Those against?
And abstentions.
Abstentions? The result of the voting is as follows: 13 votes in favor, 0 votes against, 2 abstentions. The draft resolution has been adopted. The draft resolution has been adopted as Resolution 2801-2025. I will now give the floor to those members of the Council who wish to make statements after the vote. I give the floor to the representative of the United Kingdom.
Thank you, President. Today's adoption underlines this Council's continued commitment to advancing peace and stability in Yemen. The resolution will support the Council's ability to monitor and therefore deter violations of the arms embargo. In so doing, it will help constrain the Houthis' capacity to destabilise Yemen and threaten regional maritime security, while avoiding negatively impacting the humanitarian situation for the people of Yemen. We welcome Council members' support in ensuring that the sanctions regime evolves to reflect the increasing complexity and scale of Houthi smuggling and financing. This includes looking more at issues such as the transfer of dual-use components to the Houthis and the mechanisms for vessels suspected of carrying arms or related material. We continue to call for the 2140 Committee to coordinate with other relevant sanctions committees to closely monitor cross-border arms flows, financial transactions and personnel movements between Yemen, Al-Shabaab and designated groups in Sudan. The United Kingdom reaffirms its support for the vital role UN sanctions continue to play as part of our collective efforts towards achieving a durable, inclusive and lasting peace in Yemen. I thank you.
I thank the representative of the United Kingdom for their statement, and I now give the floor to the representative of China.
President, at present, with a ceasefire achieved in Gaza and the easing of the situation in the Middle East, the settlement of the issues of Yemen and the Red Sea is seeing a turn for the better. China consistently advocates settling the Yemeni issue through political and diplomatic means and calls upon all parties concerned to seize the current opportunities, resume dialogue and negotiations without delay, and restart the peace process in Yemen. The international community should foster enabling conditions to this end and actively promote talks for peace. The Security Council sanctions regime related to Yemen will expire on November the 15th. We support the normal renewal of the regime. However, relevant country 10 days before the expiry suddenly put forth the proposal of maritime interdictions, which will mandate member states to inspect vessels in the Red Sea and surrounding waters on the basis of so-called reasonable grounds. Relevant measures are unclear in their standards, have no supervision on their implementation, and are quite arbitrary. In particular, they violate the exclusive jurisdiction of flag states over their own vessels. In practice, there are many defects that are highly susceptible to abuses by a certain country. This will severely affect freedom of navigation and maritime transport and even impact the normal international trade order and infringe upon the rights of countries to engage in international trade in accordance with international law. Although the draft resolution put to the vote has weakened relevant content, the specific language is clearly directional and still makes promoting the establishment of maritime interdictions as the ultimate objective. China has serious reservations over this and had to abstain in the vote. President, the panel of experts of the Yemen Sanctions Committee will submit a report on improving information sharing and flag state capacity. We hope that the POE will strictly observe their mandate, follow an objective, impartial, professional, and responsible approach, produce the report on the basis of carefully drawing the lessons from relevant maritime practices and taking into account fully the views of council members, and formulate constructive views and recommendations. The recommendations should be conducive to the political settlement of the Yemeni issue instead of escalating tensions and provoking confrontation. Thank you, President.
I thank the representative of China. I now give the floor to the representative of the United States.
Thank you, Madam President. The United States voted in favor of today's resolution to renew the Yemen sanctions regime and the mandate of the panel of experts. We believe these measures remain essential to deterring threats to peace and stability in Yemen and the broader region. The panel's work is critical to exposing violations of the arms embargo and to holding those responsible for fueling the conflict to account. We welcome the new requirements for the panel to report on the flow of dual-use components and precursor chemicals that enable the Houthis' weapons program. These materials, often sourced from outside Yemen, have allowed the Houthis to develop increasingly sophisticated drones and missiles, threatening international shipping and the safety of civilians across the region. The panel's advice on how to better control these flows, including what should be restricted by UN member states, will be vital to strengthening the arms embargo and protecting global commerce. We support the resolution's call for the panel to provide recommendations on improving maritime interdictions as well. The Houthis' attacks on commercial vessels in the Red Sea and Gulf of Aden have endangered lives and disrupted international trade. Enhanced information sharing and stronger flag state enforcement measures are necessary steps to stop the illegal transfer of weapons and related materials by sea. However, we regret that the resolution does not go further in addressing the growing ties between the Houthis and terrorist organizations in the region. We are disappointed the Council did not direct the panel to report more explicitly on the flow of resources between Yemen and Somalia, including between the Houthis and al-Shabaab. The United States also laments the missed opportunity to address importation of dual-use items, oil smuggling, and increasing maritime interdictions, violations raised in the panel's report. For years, the UN has imposed a freeze on assets to limit the flow of resources to al-Shabaab. Yet there is still no similar UN assets freeze to cut off funding to the Houthi terrorist organization. This is a missed opportunity to address a critical source of instability. Additionally, while we voted to adopt today's resolution, I want to express the continued frustration of the United States government with the efforts to push distracting and divisive language on gender. President Trump has made clear the United States will use clear and accurate language and policies that recognize women are biologically female and men biologically male. The language in this resolution advancing gender-specific initiatives does nothing to advance Yemen's security or prosperity. The United States remains committed to working with Council members to use all available tools, including sanctions, to support a peaceful resolution to the conflict in Yemen and to safeguard international peace and security. I thank you.
I thank the representative of the United States for the statement. I now give the floor to the representative of the Russian Federation for their statement.
Madam President, the Russian Federation abstained on the draft resolution prepared by the United Kingdom, which is to extend for 12 months the Security Council sanctions regime on Yemen, as well as the mandate of the panel of experts of the 2140 Sanctions Committee. We recall that sanctions is one of the strongest tools in the Security Council's arsenal and are intended primarily to serve the interests of advancing a political settlement and to help establish peace and stability on the ground. At the same time, it is unacceptable to use them for narrow political purposes, so as to punish or exert unjustified pressure on a given party. And the Yemeni context here is no exception. The highly politicized approach employed here by our Western colleagues only pushes the prospect of returning the settlement process to a peaceful diplomatic track further away. The resolution, which was adopted today, is filled with numerous unbalanced and one-sided passages which openly antagonize one of the key parties to the Yemeni conflict. More than that, the wording in the text effectively paves the way for a future tightening of the sanctions regime on Yemen, and this is a kind of an approach that we cannot support. Madam President, we see no alternative to an inclusive inter-Yemeni dialogue involving all influential political forces on the ground, including the Ansar Allah movement. The key mediating role in facilitating this belongs to the special envoy of the Secretary General, Mr. Hans Grunberg. Now, given the favorable conditions that have emerged in the Middle East, we call upon him to immediately step up efforts to reconcile the Yemeni antagonists and to build sustainable mechanisms of interaction between them. We emphasize here the importance of active participation in this process of Yemen's regional partners, Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Iran, and Oman. I thank you for your attention.
I thank the representative of the Russian Federation for the statement. I now give the floor to the representative of Somalia.
Thank you, Madam President. I have the honor to deliver the explanation of a position statement on behalf of A3+, namely Algeria, Guyana, Sierra Leone, and my own country, Somalia. A3+ welcomes today's adoption of Resolution 2801 of 2025, which renews for additional year the sanction regime established pursuant to Resolution 2140 of 2014, as well as the mandate of the panel of experts assisting the committees established under that resolution. We thank the pen holder for its efforts during the negotiations. While we acknowledge some improvement to the text which reflected some of our edits, We regret that other proposals of the group haven't been reflected in the final version of the resolution. A3 Plus has voted in favor of this text to reiterate the importance we attach to the work of 2140 Committee and supporting the political process in Yemen. The group believes that holding accountable those individuals and entities that threaten the peace, security, and stability of Yemen is paramount and conducive to a sustainable peace in Yemen. The group expresses concern over the airstrikes against Yemen, in particular Hodeidah, and urges all parties to exercise caution and restraint to avoid further escalation of the situation in the Red Sea and the broader region. A3 Plus reaffirms its unwavering commitment to Yemen's unity, sovereignty, independence, and territorial integrity, and stresses that these principles must remain at the core of all international efforts concerning Yemen. We urge all Yemeni parties to engage sincerely and constructively under the auspices of United Nations in order to bring the conflict to an end and achieve an inclusive political settlement based on the agreed terms of reference. A3 Plus remains deeply concerned by the continued detention of United Nations personnel by the Houthis. Such actions are unacceptable and constitute a serious violation that undermines the ability of United Nations to carry out its vital mandate in Yemen. In this regard, we reiterate our call for an immediate and unconditional release of all detained UN staff. In conclusion, Madam President, the A3 Plus looks forward to the full implementation of this resolution and renews its firm commitment to supporting efforts aimed at restoring peace, stability, and security in Yemen and alleviating the suffering of its people. I thank you.
I thank the permanent representative of Somalia for the statement. I now give the floor to the representative of France.
Madam President, France voted in favour of renewing the sanctions regime established by Resolution 2140. I have 4 messages. Firstly, we would like to thank the British penholder for their constant efforts at consultation and compromise which made it possible to adopt this resolution. This sanctions regime remains an essential tool to promote and ensure regional peace and stability throughout the region. The adoption of this resolution sends a clear political signal. The behaviour of the Houthis is unacceptable. It violates international law and prevents any political progress in Yemen. In this context, a robust sanctions regime is an essential lever to pressure the Houthis to engage in the political process. We nevertheless regret that the text adopted is not more ambitious and does not reflect the worsening situation in Yemen over the last year. The initial proposals aimed at strengthening controls on dual-use components and introducing maritime interdiction measures which constitute the best means to fully enforce the arms embargo were consistent with the recommendations of the panel of experts. These issues will need to be revisited in light of the reports that the panel of experts will present in April 2026. My third point, we welcome the inclusion in the text of 2801, the condemnation of arbitrary detentions of United Nations personnel and humanitarian workers carried out by the Houthis, which illustrates the need to maintain and ultimately strengthen the pressure exerted by this Council. 59 United Nations personnel are currently being unlawfully detained alongside numerous humanitarian workers and NGO staff. We condemn these detentions which violate international law, worsen the humanitarian crisis, and undermine the United Nations political mediation efforts. And finally, I'd like to reaffirm France's full support for the Special Envoy of the Secretary-General, Mr. Hans Grundberg, and his efforts to pave the way for the resumption of an inter-Yemeni political process, the only means to sustainably end the conflict. We call upon all the parties to engage in this process in good faith. Thank you.
I thank the representative of France for the statement. I give the floor to the representative of Denmark.
Thank you, Madam President. Denmark voted in favor of the resolution in support of a continuation of the targeted sanctions regime on Yemen. We commend the efforts of the UK in seeking to bridge the various positions expressed throughout the negotiations. The 2140 sanctions regime remains a vital tool in preventing further escalation in the Red Sea, as well as in Yemen in support of efforts to advance the political process. Despite the arms embargo, the Houthis have continued to expand their power and capabilities. With support from their allies, they relentlessly circumvent the sanctions regime by smuggling weapons and adapting their supply chains, which risks further destabilizing the region, undermining freedom of navigation, and threatening maritime security in the Red Sea. The sanctions regime that we just renewed is an important step and a testament to the commitment of this Council to maintain pressure on the Houthis. We are also pleased that the strengthened language on due process is now included in the resolution. This is essential for accountability across all sanctions regimes and an issue which Denmark will continue to champion. Denmark calls on all states to fully respect and uphold all aspects of this sanctions regime, including the arms embargo, asset freeze, and travel ban measures. We must keep up the pressure on those who continue to threaten efforts to advance peace in Yemen. I thank you.
I thank the representative of Denmark for the statement. I give the floor to the representative of Pakistan.
Thank you, Madam President. Pakistan voted in favor of today's resolution, which extends for 1 year the sanction regime established under Resolution 2140, together with the mandate of the panel of experts supporting the committee's work. We appreciate the efforts of the United Kingdom during the negotiation process. Pakistan supported the resolution to reaffirm the importance we attach to the 2140 committee, ensuring accountability for individuals and entities that jeopardize Yemen's stability and security remains essential to laying the foundation for durable and sustainable peace. At the same time, it is important to note that the panel of experts have to operate under the direction of the committee, and it's imperative to uphold this fundamental principle and adjust reporting procedures accordingly, with a view to ensuring that the panel carries out its mandate in full consistency with the letter and spirit of Resolution 2140. Pakistan reaffirms its steadfast support for Yemen's unity, sovereignty, independence, and territorial integrity. These principles must guide all international engagements on the Yemeni file. We further encourage all Yemeni parties to engage constructively and in good faith under the United Nations auspices to bring an end to conflict through an inclusive, negotiated political settlement based on the agreed parameters. Madam President, we also urge all parties to act with utmost restraint and avoid steps that could exacerbate tensions in the Red Sea region and beyond. Pakistan strongly condemns the continued detention of the United Nations personnel, humanitarian workers, and diplomatic staff by Houthis and call for their immediate and unconditional release. These detentions are unlawful and also undermines the United Nations' ability to carry out its essential mandate and render humanitarian response. In closing, Madam President, Pakistan reaffirms its full support for the UN-led peace process and all efforts aimed at restoring peace, stability, and security in Yemen and alleviating the profound humanitarian suffering of its people. I thank you, Madam President.
I thank the representative of Pakistan for the statement. I give the floor to the representative of the Republic of Korea.
Thank you, Madam President. The Republic of Korea voted in favor of this resolution. At the outset, we express our appreciation to the penholder, the United Kingdom, for its tireless efforts in fostering the Council's unity. Indeed, throughout the year, we have witnessed serious Houthi attacks against commercial vessels in the Red Sea, employing increasingly advanced weapon system. As clearly revealed in the final report of the panel of experts, it is well known the weapons and related materials continue to be transferred to the Houthis in violation of the arms embargo. No one can deny that such development undermine the peace and stability in Yemen that we collectively seek. That said, the Republic of Korea welcomes the adoption of this resolution. It sends an unequivocal message that the Security Council is closely monitoring actions that fuel instability in Yemen and the region. In addition, this resolution demonstrates the Council's readiness to explore further ways to ensure that its decisions are implemented in a more effective manner. Security Council resolution, including the arms embargo, must be fully and faithfully implemented as designed to prevent further escalation and help restore stability in the Red Sea and the wider region. As chair of the Yemen Sanctions Committee, the Republic of Korea will continue to steadfastly carry out its responsibility during the remainder of its Council tenure. The committee is now discussing actions in response to the recommendations contained in the panel of experts' final report. The Republic of Korea will help advance common efforts to ensure that these discussions remain constructive and contribute to peace and stability in Yemen. I thank you.
I thank the representative of the Republic of Korea for the statement. I give the floor to the representative of Greece.
Thank you, Madam President. Greece welcomes the renewal of the mandate of the Yemen sanctions regime. We voted in favor of the resolution just adopted because we are convinced that it remains an important tool to deter threats to the peace, stability and security of Yemen and the broader area. We thank the penholder, the United Kingdom, for their leadership during the negotiations. The agreement on today's adoption of a one-year renewal of the mandate sends a clear signal that the Council continues to consider Resolution 2140 as a crucial tool in order to prevent the illicit traffic of advanced weaponry and training to the Houthis, consistent with Council's resolutions 2216 and 2624. We call on all Member States to respect and fully implement the targeted arms embargo in this respect. We remain concerned by the volatile security situation in and around Yemen. Today's renewal of the Yemen sanctions regime maintains pressure on the Houthis in order for them to eventually engage constructively in a peace process in Yemen. To this end, Greece fully supports the efforts of Special Envoy Hans Grunberg to reinvigorate the political dialogue, an inclusive, Yemeni-led and Yemeni-owned peace process under the UN auspices with full respect of the sovereignty, territorial integrity and unity of Yemen is the only sustainable, viable way forward. In conclusion, Greece remains deeply committed into upholding freedom of navigation and maritime security, including in the Red Sea region, and we call on the Houthis to refrain from attacks to international shipping and to release immediately all crew members they have detained during the previous attacks, as well as all UN and humanitarian personnel and diplomatic staff. I thank you.
I thank the representative of Greece for the statement. I give the floor to the permanent representative of Panama.
Thank you, Madam President. The Republic of Panama would like to express our thanks to the United Kingdom for their leadership, work and commitment in drafting the text of the resolution to renew the sanctions regime on Yemen. Panama voted in favor of the resolution for the renewal of this sanctions regime because we believe that it is useful to maintain continued attention of the Security Council on the situation in Yemen, a multi-dimensional conflict, military, political, economic and humanitarian, which continues to seriously affect the civilian population and regional stability. The sanctions continue to play a fundamental role allowing actions of the Council to be applied in a technical way. In this regard, we think it's important to reaffirm the need to evaluate with each renewal these mechanisms with the aim of increasing their effectiveness and the ability to respond in the face of threats to international peace and security. The reports of the panel of experts have shown evidence of conflict and the spreading of the conflict, which makes it even more urgent to adapt our action to new realities on the ground. Therefore, our commitment to these multilateral tools in a selective, focused manner for effective implementation and within the framework of international law is what is happening. Our positive vote is also based on the firm commitment of my country to international maritime security. As a maritime country, we robustly condemn the attacks carried out against commercial vessels in the Red Sea by the Houthis. These acts of violence seriously endanger international maritime security and compromise free navigation and affect global supply chains and the delivery of humanitarian assistance, which is so much needed by the region. Panama also condemns the attacks against humanitarian workers, non-governmental organizations and United Nations personnel, as well as their arbitrary and unjustified detention. In this regard, Madam President, we would urgently call for the immediate and safe release of all detained personnel and that there be full guarantee for international humanitarian law and the protection of civilian staff doing essential work on the ground. Thank you very much.
I thank the representative of Panama for the statement. There are no more names inscribed in the list of speakers. The meeting is adjourned.